I was once asked if I can guarantee an organization a top score in NPS, in Net Promoter Score, and I said that I can. There's a very simple magic to making that happen, which is eliminate all customers and everything will work just fine. And I know some of you are finding it very, very tempting. I know, me too. The same, by the way, is about strategy. Just eliminate all employees and your strategies will be executed so flawlessly that you kind of wonder, do we really need them there? Is it really necessary? And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about strategy, not from the conception side, which you have heard a great deal about, but really from the employee side and from the execution side. Because one of the things, I came to this world of consulting actually from technology. We were selling a lot of technology tools for companies. And we found out very, very quickly that even a fool with a tool is still a fool. I mean, if they don't know where they're going with that, it's not going to take them anywhere. And when we tried to solve the problem for our clients, we found out that everybody have a very segmented answer. So you talk to management consultants, they'll tell you they'll do a report. You'll talk to Gallup, they'll do a research for you. You'll go to a training company, they'll do training for you. But nobody's really looking at the complete journey and saying, what does it mean to transform an organization? What does it mean from the moment we get the first insight to training the last employee? And that was kind of the holy grail that we are dealing with at Strativity every day, dealing with clients anywhere from B2B to B2C, from Honeywell and FedEx all the way to Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, Mercedes-Benz, which I'll be talking about, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure somewhere in your vision statement and in your strategy, there is a statement about delighting the customers, and the race is on. Everybody wants to make sure that they're customer-centric, that they're delivering value to customers. If we actually talk about it from a very simple standpoint, if you want to get exceptional results, which I just lost some of, I guess you're cutting my slides too. But if you want exceptional results, you need customer choice. You need to deliver to them not just value, but profitable value. You need value that they're willing to pay a premium price for. That will ultimately create the customer choice. But in order to get the customer choice, you need to design the best choice possible for them, which is exceptional experiences. Now we're starting to get to the problem. Because we are trying to take strategy from a top down. We'll design the product, we'll design the retail space, and the rest will follow. But at the end of the day, we're dependent on the employee choice. Because there's no money in the world that you can pay to make an employee smile sincerely. You can pay them to smile, but not sincerely. You don't trust me? Just go on one of the American airlines, and you'll see one of those union negotiated smiles that you get when you get in. And it's absolutely horrible. And the last thing on earth they want is to see you on board. They're the most authentic when you actually leave, if you noticed. So one of the things that you need to understand, a sincere smile is an employee choice. And in a sense, your strategy is dependent on the millions of choices that your employees are making every day, if to delight, if to innovate or not. This is not a top-down story. This is a bottom-up story. And when we dealt with Mercedes, it was very interesting. We gathered a whole bunch of employees. We said, money is not an issue. Here's what we want you to do. We want you to imagine a customer taking ownership of an S-Class. It's about a $100,000 purchase. Money is not an issue. I want you to imagine how are you going to delight this customer during the delivery. They gathered together. Budget is not an issue. Came back. They said, we found it, sir. We are going to place a bucket of chicken on the driver's seat. So when they open the car, the bucket of chicken will welcome them. And I was looking for the candid camera because I was sure this is one of those tricks. No. That was the best they could imagine. That was their innovation. They had no clue what an affluent customer is all about and how to delight them and what to do with them. And that is what we find every day. You go to an organization, you talk about employee execution, they'll tell you, oh, we got Heather and John and they're the best. We cannot live by Heather and John anymore. We'll tell them, okay, 2 down, 5,000 to go. What about the rest of them? We live in a world of consistency. And our customers are no longer accepting okay job. It's exceptional or nothing. And we're now dependent on every employee everywhere in every part of the organization. So ask yourself a simple question. Susie from accounting, does she know what the strategy is? David from legal, does he know how he's impacting the strategy, the way he writes documents? Because if they do not, your strategy is at best a great illusion. Validated by customers, but an illusion nevertheless. It's not going to happen. Those companies who actually committed to customers and delivered it correctly actually outdid the S&P. I'm not going to go into that because of the time issue. And here's another slide that didn't work well, but customer challenge. which raises for your strategy first question, which is what is the emotional aspect of your strategy, both from a customer standpoint and from an employee standpoint. Think about it. Not the rational, the emotional side. Why won't they do it? Because if you're trying to deliver a differentiated promise consistently, these are some of the questions that the customers will ask. Does it inspire me? Do I desire it? Does it come to life? And do I receive it all the time? But here are the employee questions. Do I believe it? What is my role? Do I know how? Do I have the tools and authority? In the case that we found with Mercedes employees, 70% of them never drove the car. They had no idea what the car is. And by the way, one additional element, Mercedes sells through independent dealers. So we got 360 versions of the truth delivered by different dealers. One of them swore to me that cursing the customer is a legitimate way of negotiating a price. Not next to the customer, at the customer. Because that is his execution of what Mercedes believe as a strategy, the best or nothing. He got better curses. So when we approach that, we start with a very simple question, which is, what is the target promise for the customer? What is the memory we are trying to create? And I would submit to you that most of our clients are coming to us not because they are dysfunctional, but rather because they are boring. Their products are facing commoditization. The customer doesn't remember anything. So the promise is the first thing. Then the next thing is the performance. How do we actually deliver the promise that we committed to? And is it exceptional at the right moments of truth? And ultimately, the platform, which is the culture. And the presenter that talked about culture, thank you very much for that one. Because without that one, there is no organization. You are the sum total of your employees' decisions and choices. And within that, I will repeat the question, what is the emotional obstacle of your employees not to execute the strategy? Don't look for the rational. The data is great, but they're not going to change because of data. So what is the emotional obstacle, and how do we translate our strategy into a narrative that will absolutely execute it very well? So here's the next one. When we talk to clients about employee engagement and customer centricity, they said, oh, we're great. We're doing it already. You're just bursting into an open door. You're preaching to the choir. This is an interesting study for you that we conduct on a regular basis, over 50,000 participants. Half of them are customers, half of them are the employees who deliver to those customers. According to the employees, 76% of them says, I go often above and beyond and exceed my customer expectations. Only 26% of their customers agreed with the same statement. On the questions, I use common sense and discretion in my work. 87% of the employees said, that's me, common sense. Just go to Wikipedia, my picture is there. What are you talking about? I am it. Only 37% of their customers agreed with the same statement. And that is where strategy falls short. Because employees are coming into whatever strategy you design and say, I'm doing it already. I've been doing it all my life. What do you think? And that gap is your opportunity for differentiation. That is where the profitable value is hidden. Because employees are operating on a product-centric mentality and do not understand what does it mean to become customer-centric. The next element, most of strategies are developed top-down. And executives assume that if they wrote the memo or maybe even shot a video, very inspirational one, with some good pictures in the back, employees are ready, lined up. I mean, please give me more of that. And yet our research shows again and again, and our experience in execution shows again and again, that this is the water cooler breaking point. That is when first-line managers dismiss it in a cynical way, and that strategy is gone. All the money you paid is just going down the toilet because first-line managers dismissively, cynically said something to their employees, and they are going back to business as usual. And the assumption that because I'm the CEO and I wrote the memo and all these type of things, it's going to happen, think again. They are not executing, and it is being killed at the first line of managers who are not really prepared for this type of performance. So many of you probably, when you talk about strategy, you talk about change management. It's very important. Here's what you tell your employees when you talk about change management. Whatever you've done until now was wrong. You think you know what you're doing, but you don't. We do. I know we don't see customers a lot. You do, but it doesn't really matter. And let's now go all the way over there. And there's nothing worse that you can introduce to your employees than change management as a concept. Because you're really putting a big red cross over what they've done before. We use the concept of cause management. Let's go back to the roots. Let's go back to why we are here. What is the inspirational story and mission that we can build, and then build the why, the how, the impact, the whole thing. We really need to think about it from an execution standpoint, saying, how can we make them want to do that? Because we can't force them to smile. We can only invite them to smile by creating the narrative and the tool and the infrastructure, the platform for them to perform. In many ways, we are creating the stage that will allow them to perform the best show they can. And oftentimes I see that, again, traditional strategy development kind of leave that short because, oh, the CEO will send it, and the best incentive is, of course, the paycheck. So, I mean, yeah, of course they'll do it. So think about cause management, not change management. Again, I'm rushing very, very quickly. One of the questions when you think about strategy execution, you need to ask yourself, if you have reached that conclusion and it's so brilliant, how come the employees are on the front line every day not doing it already? Why is it not happening? Start with that as opposed to assume that if you say so, they will come. Start with the question of why they are not doing it. What are the obstacles? And you will find absolutely amazing set of obstacles. One of my favorites, I was auditing a call center. I was sitting there listening to a call. The customer calls in to ask for a refund. And the employee says to him, sir, it seems to be a misunderstanding. In our company, we only take money. We don't really give it back. And I thought it was a joke, again. And he pulls out the manual. It's right there. It says it. It's the manual. That's a script. Somebody built it for whatever reason, and that became kind of the excuse. So I'm not going to go through all the process because of my time limitation. When it comes to Mercedes, a marquee organization, they invented the car. Yet when it comes to customer satisfaction, they were not ranked anywhere close to the top. Their dealers were performing inconsistently. And that was hurting margins. That was hurting the numbers in a very big way. And they came to us. They tried to do it, by the way, on their own. A couple of years earlier, they tried to initiate the whole thing. Didn't exactly work out. A lot of acrimonious relationship with the dealers. And they said, we've got to really put a new platform of how do we become the best on nothing in customer experience. The goals were awareness, perspective, expectations, and commitment. And from our design standpoint, we were not focusing on what corporate says. It wasn't about the CEO. It was about creating a very intimate relationship with the employees where we are walking them through a journey of, I want to do it, I know how to do it, I'm proud to do it, and I am the customer. Now that's a challenging one, because if you make $40,000, $50,000 a year and you're serving somebody who's making $2 million a year, there is no natural bridge to connect to them. And it was a real obstacle. That was an emotional obstacle. And we needed to humanize the customers in a way that they will be willing to go above and beyond and create the amazing performance we were looking for. Because at the end of the day, our strategy was, let's create thousands of stories that will start permeating the marketplace and telling the world we are doing it differently. After all the analysis and everything else, when we are looking actually at what was executed, was about 76 days on the road, 11,000 employees at a dealership, 4,000 employees at headquarters, all trained full day on how to do it and why should they do it and how to connect. In fact, they've taken it all the way to their partners, all the way to the people who drive the trucks that brings the cars into the dealership. It was a total ultimate commitment. There were a couple of measurements. We were looking at satisfaction level, which you can see. We were looking at stories, and we were looking at sales. So for those of you who do not follow the auto industry, Lexus was #1 3 years ago. Mercedes have been growing for the last 3 years at 17% 2011, 13% 2012, and 13% this year. They're on track to become the #1 auto, luxury car manufacturer in the United States. Took over the German place. By the way, anybody knows what BMW stands for? Wanted Mercedes-Benz, backwards. We're also looking at stories. So you talk about dealers that are competing with each other. And this is a real story. Customer comes in, April 30th, they're purchasing a very rare vehicle. They're about to deliver the vehicle, end of the month, by the way, at any auto dealership, they have to sell as many as possible. They found out that one of the wheels is broken. They don't have a replacement. However, they find that their arch nemesis across town has the same exact vehicle, the same package, the same car, the same color. Never spoken to that place. Never traded with that place, called them in the name of Customer One, which was the program, and says, I really need to get the car. Would you do me the favor and bring me the car? I have a sale I have to deliver. And for the first time, they've done exactly that. LA, one of the most difficult in terms of competitive landscape markets for Mercedes-Benz. One dealership, the shop foreman, his father was sick. He had to travel outside of the country in order to be with his father. The competing dealers around volunteered their shop foreman one a day to make sure that their customer satisfaction scores will stay at the top. Customer comes in, she's crying, she has a flat tire, and she absolutely needs to get her car as soon as possible. We don't have the tire in the inventory. The proper answer is, ma'am, please go. But she's crying, ma'am, is everything okay? No, my son has a soccer game. Now, in the old way, like, I couldn't care less what your son has. The guy goes to the showroom, removes the tire from a display car, put it on her car, and sent her on her way less than 30 minutes. She broke down and cried even more. She came back later. These are the thousands of stories that started to illustrate to everyone, this is the new standard. This is how we are going to do it. We learned a lot of things. A couple of things that will be very relevant for you when you think about strategy. First, I understand what you want me to do, but how does it really look like? I've never done it before. So what is the new standard? Make it very clear to me. Second, remove my obstacles. Third, I want to experience the brand, and I need a leader. Many times we found managers who manage numbers, but not leaders. The other element that we found to be absolutely amazing is that the managers at the dealerships had a completely opposite perspective of their employees. They said employees always complain. 31% of the employees in our employee engagement study were actually very grateful. They said it's all about money. Only 16% of the employees talked about salary. And when they say they don't see the big picture, 45% of the employee requests were, let's improve our dealership. Completely reversed. And that is part of the change. A lot of these managers were looking at them and saying, you know, these are just cheap guys who wants more money from me and it's my money and so on and so forth. We had to actually reverse the leadership perspective of what is really happening. And that is part of what makes a strategy stick. When the leaders are aligned and actually doing that. And part of the execution, we've actually went and delivered over 400 consulting days, creating 400 customized action plans for each dealership. It's a completely different thing than just, you know, scaling from the top a bunch of slides and say, go ahead and do it. This was customized local action plans that executed the strategy in your town, in your region, and so on and so forth. I'll skip that one. This is our favorite success. We have actually jumped from number 9 to number 1 at the American Customer Satisfaction Index. The goal was achieved. The best of nothing was conquered, and we've conquered that above Lexus, which have been committed to customer satisfaction for many, many years. As I said, they are on track on profitability. We don't have enough cars, so please do not go and ask for an S-Class or a CLA. We are really running out of them. The wait time right now is about 6 months, and we're talking to you about a $100,000 car. This is not exactly an easy one, but the goal was achieved, and it was achieved by the thousands of stories, by unleashing the performance at the trenches. Strategy at the end of the day is the sum total of your people's actions. And the question is, do you understand why they're not doing it? Do you understand the emotional obstacle why not to do that? And do we understand how to create a sum total in which they want to do it as opposed to you telling them to do it? Because when it comes to the race for differentiation, for authenticity, we're in a different place. We're in a place of inspiration. We're in a place of surprise and delight. We're in a place of visibility of value and about sustainable culture of innovation. And innovation is no longer a department. Innovation is no longer finding the next best service or the next great car. It's about the millions of decisions that your employees are making every day. That's how we unleash that power. So hopefully I live by the time. After Q&A, during the break, we are giving away a copy of my book, so you don't have to buy it, and you can start your strategy on an execution foot without requiring finance approval. With that, I'll finish just with one last question. Customer comes in and calls the dealership, and they say, I need to bring my car for service. And they said, is everything okay? No, I just have some problems. They said, can I please have a loaner? Now, the strategy is to have a loaner for every luxury car. And he said, yeah, but can you get me an S-Class instead of C-Class? Now, from a process standpoint, there is no S-Class in the loaner network. So what are you going to do? One of the things that we taught the employees is focus on the power you do have, not the power you don't have. Find a creative way, innovate on the spot. The guy says to him, is everything okay, sir? He said, actually, it's not. I was diagnosed with cancer. I have to drive to the city in order to get treatment. The potholes are hurting me, and the C-Class is not as stable as the S-Class. He said to him, stay there. I'll take care of you. He calls him back. He says, stay home. We're coming to you. He got him an S-Class, a previously owned S-Class, a certified pre-owned, and a driver, and food. Drove him to the city 3 hours from Connecticut, stayed until 7 p.m., and then drove him 3 hours back to his home. The customer just broke down and cried. This is differentiation. This is inspiration. This is the sum total of stories. If you want to take your strategy and turn it into execution, measure it by the stories that people create. That is the power of strategy. Thank you very much.